Nah, 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 nah. Wait till I get my someday right. Nah, 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 nah. Then you won't win the game, the shy. Whoa, it didn't go well, though.
Yeah, I mean, what, Worlds?
Worlds. Worlds was Worlds.
Worlds was Worlds. I feel like Worlds was exactly what I expected it to be. There were moments that hurt more than a little bit, but
Yeah,
we won 2 games.
we did. And now we are in wonderful, exotic new podcasting locales. So we have
Yes,
emerged from Worlds as better men.
we also took a challenge, which was to travel to somewhere else in the world to do our next podcast.
I traveled to a place where I bought a thing I can hang a backdrop on. So that's what my kind of bootleg setup back here is. So I'm still actually in my same locale. But you are in the land of the dead, my friend.
I traded in my broadband for this hanging skeleton.
Yeah.
And it was the right choice.
I was going to say, I think you came out even. So you are broadcasting from an undisclosed location out in the country on
I'm in
probably
rural
what, satellite internet?
Yeah, it's satellite for sure. And so it looks like I'm being recorded through some cheesecloth. And also I don't have any of my actual equipment. And there are a bunch of under 10-year-old kids here who will probably break in at least 4 or 5 times. Yeah. We're already at 1.
Like this is going to be a record-setting podcast for But anyway, I'm going on vacation next week, so I was unable to make our usual time where Jordan could have had a more ideal location to podcast from. So this one is on me, folks. This one is on me.
It looks like it's on me, but really, we're just making it work. We're making it work.
That said,
and this is the Den of Thieves podcast.
The Den of Thieves podcast. I am Cole. He is Jordan. We are guys who talk about League of Legends, who talk about other thieves, especially.
That's what we do.
And wow, lots to talk about. Lots to talk about.
Yeah, let's just say first and foremost, take off any you don't wear Haterade. Put down your Haterade, take off your rose tinted glasses. This world is crazy, man. Like just purely from a fan standpoint, this is some high quality entertainment, and I am definitely hooked at this point. I mean, it's been pretty clear that I'm hooked already, but dang, dude, I cannot wait for October now every year, because if this is what we can expect, this is crazy.
It has been absolutely insane. I cannot believe how surprising everything is. Everything basically outside of our group stage. And I logged in to play a game, and I got like Worlds tokens and some icon for like watching more than 30 games or whatever. I was like, yeah, I guess I have watched a lot of League of Legends in the last little while. So I don't know what that says about me, but yeah, it's
good, man.
It's been interesting, and I've lost a lot of sleep watching stuff live.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you and me both last night. That was, but yeah, how do you go to? I mean, I pried myself away for Game 5 of the IG KT series.
Yeah, wow. we both clocked out for Game 5 because we were too tired and had to wake up and watch it in the morning.
And then I noticed that the bot they didn't upload Game 5.
Yeah. If only someone would have told everybody that Invictus Gaming is really good and could probably do that. And pick them in the pick'ems. If only so. Oh, that was me. Gosh, I told you guys, Invictus is good, man.
Well, see, this is the thing that it's weird to me. Early on, I heard I want to say it was either Azale or Kobe on one of the dives before Worlds kicked off, and they were talking about IG, and they're like, I think this is maybe the second best team at Worlds. Well, like there's a very good chance that they win.
But well, I'm telling you, that sentiment was not really widely held by the analyst desk, because everybody was like, yeah, Fnatic's better than Invictus, and KT will get the win. And it was just really confusing because it's like, did we forget what they did in LPL? And I mean, this is not the Invictus Gaming podcast prank that we're doing or anything like that, but we're just, I mean, what we're saying is Invictus Gaming is provably very, very, very good, and Fnatic beat them, right? In groups.
Yeah.
So
twice in a row, 2 games in a row.
I mean, I'm feeling not quite as bad as I was earlier about our own performance. I'm not feeling wonderful, but I'm not feeling like it's a total loss.
Right. And that's why we're starting this episode of the Den of Thieves with a little bit of IG talk, because I can't wait to watch how people like do some revisionist history here to just make it so that 100 Thieves is actually still so bad for having lost to both Fnatic and IG. Like, those teams were, I mean, yeah, you said it. Fnatic beat IG twice in a row, and IG just beat. Basically, they 3-0'd KT. They didn't.
Yeah, it was
2 autos away.
Like a kitten's whisker away from a sweep.
Yes.
So
right. So
there's that.
Great. So let's just make this officially the Worlds section of this podcast. Let's get all the World stuff out of the way. Let's just get through Worlds.
And we're talking about this in the context of stuff that's relevant to us. So look, we saw the Invictus Gaming thing. We saw that play out. Holy cow. But cool. Now Fnatic is about to go up against EDG, which is looking like kind of a favorable matchup, right? So we have the potential that the two teams that advance out of our group are going to make it to semifinals. Like at this point, it may even be likely, like kind of likely that that's going to happen, as long as Fnatic doesn't poop the sheets. So, I mean,
they don't seem likely to do that to me at all. They seem really locked in. They seem super confident.
Don't jinx it, man. Don't jinx it. We need this.
I don't need it that bad. I would like it, but I'm not averse to jinxing other teams.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think that I'm really hoping that Fnatic gets that win, and it would feel like some kind of validation for us. Like not that we had a great showing against either of those teams and barely lost, because we didn't. Like we got soundly defeated by them. But we did improve in our second games against them. And the second games weren't so totally lost, So it makes me feel a little bit better. I don't feel like we're the worst team at Worlds, besides G-Rex. I feel like there's some other candidates in there. So so safely top 15 in the world, that's not that bad of a place to be.
Right.
And with some clear issues that could be fixed, so there's like lots of improvement on the board for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point, right? So top 15 in the world at this point in time. We picked up 2 games in our group, so we've won games at the world level, and I would argue that, like, I think there's something to all of the flame that has been coming from everybody, which is, if you look just at a line graph that shows our, like the peak of our performance over time, we're definitely in a trough. Like, this is not close to the best 100 Thieves I think that we've seen since in the very short history of this organization. I would argue that it's kind of the least certain. So we've got a ton of upside, right? Like, we get some things figured out, and we're right back in it.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's also a new level of competition that we hadn't previously faced, so you have to factor that in. But I still think your point holds. So, yeah. I mean, I just like if either Invictus or Fnatic make a deep run, I wish I could just storm onto Reddit and demand an apology, but that ain't gonna happen. Plus, I don't want to downplay the fact that we definitely had some problems, and we definitely have some things that need to be fixed and need to be addressed. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, well, no, we're really good.
Yeah, we could have beat all those guys, man. Yeah. See, IG beat them. We played IG.
Yeah, so that's not what this is, but
no, it's not. But it is a little bit of like, so we got beat badly, in a couple of games, and we got beat pretty badly in 4 games by teams who are beating, in IG's case, the favorite, the odds-on favorite to win the entire tournament. They beat them really badly twice.
Yeah.
Like the first 2 games were not close at all.
Right. Third game was kind of a miracle.
Against Kate.
So
third game was one of those like will go down in history games. Yeah.
So just so listeners know, we're actually not going to go in and break down all of our games from our final group day, just because at this point there's not a whole lot to talk about, and we're not moving forward. Like the season's over for us, so we're not going to break down the games in the way that we typically do. I just say I'm happy that we showed improvement the second time we played these teams. That's my overall thing is, man, the hate was so strong for 100 Thieves in that moment. And it would have been easy to just like roll over and die and get beat as bad or worse as we did on day 1 to Fnatic and IG. But we didn't. We just played our best. We handled G-Rex soundly and showed that we learned a few things from our first matches against IG and Fnatic. So, I mean, still, as we've said before, I'm not very disappointed or anything in the world's outcome. So, well, I could have gone better, but whatever.
Yes, could have gone better. And this is something that we talked about throughout the entire tournament, was we have to learn things about the team. And I feel like we learned a ton. And I think you and I will go into what those things are in a lot more detail in a future show. But like, look at the last game that we played, right? We're kind of focusing on the second round robin today. Not in a ton of detail, but Anda absolutely popped off. Like, that was basically Anda's coming out game of like, I have arrived on the world stage. You should fear me because I'll take over a game. And he totally did. Now, granted, it wasn't against, it wasn't against a 1 or a 2 seed, but still, like, when you get to Worlds, you play in teams in the group stage. That is part of Worlds. So you can't. I don't think it's fair to downplay that and say, well, it was G-Rex and they're not that good. I mean, they were in the group stage. Like, they earned their spot in the group stage, and Anda absolutely embarrassed them with a Talia pick in the jungle. So that was so fun to watch. Like, that game on its own, like it was just really good to end on that note.
Yeah, like in a vacuum, it was a very good game, and then it was like a warm fuzzy at the end of what was a pretty rough couple of weeks.
But what does that do for the overall confidence of a player like Anda too? Have this be your first Worlds tournament, and to just leave it knowing that you got a lot of credibility, you got a lot of respect, and that next time you go back, people are going to be remembering some of those plays that you dropped against G-Rex.
Yeah, I think if there's one overall bright spot for Worlds, it would be his performance, and that now he will be seen as a legitimate player in NA. And then honestly, he showed that he can hold his own on Worlds, so he should be there too. I mean, he's not going to be like, oh, like he's a top 5 jungler in the world or anything. It's not going to be that at all. But yeah, I mean, people look down at him even in NA. And they always viewed that matchup as a disadvantage for us. And he started out fine. He wasn't great, but he has absolutely gotten better every week since he came to 100 Thieves. So kudos to him for working hard. Kudos to him for having a good attitude. Kudos to him. Kudos to Prawley for coaching him up. And I just, that is probably the biggest bright spot we have to take away from our World's experience. So
for sure,
we have a domestic great product, for our team.
Yeah, and he could have come into the entire season with a chip on his shoulder because of the way it happened, because of all the negativity surrounding that trade, right? And I wasn't super closely following the social media at the time, but I'm sure he got a lot of hate from people who are like, yo, man, what are you doing? Like, Meteos should be starting, all this stuff. Maybe they were directing that all to the management at that point, but it's still, it kind of felt good for him to come in under those circumstances and then those are big shoes to fill because people love Medios.
Yeah. And expectations of him were very low, and he didn't care. He just came out, showed out, got
Yep.
better, focused on himself and focused on the team. So, man, what a great pickup he has turned out to be. And
Yeah.
like you alluded to, we'll talk about the team and roster and stuff like that at a future date. But
Mhm.
so we'll say that for there. But we at least have a great asset in our pocket with Anda,
Yeah.
and that trade worked out about as good as you could possibly hope given the circumstances.
Yeah, that in hindsight, there's a stroke of genius behind that one, because usually it's like you're trying to minimize your losses if you have to give up, somebody that you intentionally picked to form the team around. We've done a lot more than kind of minimize our losses. We've gained quite a bit with Anda on the roster.
Yep. Well, do you have any other thoughts from Worlds before we move on to all the craziness that's been happening in the world of Reddit and the internet?
The virtual world. Let's see. World's thoughts. Man, EU is popping off just in general. It's cool to see. Again, it's a super exciting Worlds. It's a really cool Worlds to have be our first Worlds, both you and I as fans, but also as for the organization. Like, this is a Worlds that people will remember for a long, long, long time. So it's cool to have been it's cool to have watched it with a bit more interest than we otherwise would have. It's just another reason to be thankful.
Yep.
And now let's move on to the hate train.
Now let's talk about the huge tsunami of hate that we've seen bubble up. Where do you want to start? I mean, do you want to start at the most recent stuff and work our way back? I mean, we could talk about Nadeshot's video, or we could talk about Travis's video. You want to do Nadeshot first? Okay, so if you guys haven't seen it today, just what, 8 or 9 hours ago, Nadeshot released a video to the 100 Thieves YouTube, where he was basically addressing all of the negative comments that have come against the organization lately and against him personally, mostly focusing on the communication issues that 100 Thieves as an organization has faced, mostly surrounding the Medios trade and the Cody Sun Rakara situation. And the video itself was just Nadeshot sitting down, like it was like the intro to the heist where they finally addressed the Medios trade, where it was just him uncut, having an unfiltered dialogue to the camera, which I think is a nice approach, especially in light of the comments that he made on his stream while he was playing Black Ops or whatever. But and his main thing was taking full ownership for all of the issues that they've had as an organization. Like, he said over and over again, this stuff is my fault. I chose the policy of not talking about this and just focusing on putting our heads down and getting to work. So it was a pretty interesting thing to release because, as we said, there was so much crazy hate going on in front of that. And there's like record number of upvotes on a disappreciation thread or something on 100 Thieves during the League of Legends subreddit. Reddit. So what were your takeaways from the video? What did we find out? What did we confirm? How did you feel?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess so. Let me start by just saying, I looked through the comments on Reddit. I looked through the comments on YouTube a little bit, and not because I value any of them, but it's always interesting to see what people are thinking. And it seems like generally people are accepting this apology, and they're like, and how, I don't know. You can't have been that mad if all it took was for Nadeshot to come out and say, like, hey guys, our bad. We'll try to do better next time, I guess.
Exactly.
And then be like, oh, okay, now it's good. We're good now. We're good.
Yeah,
We're good.
exactly. Which is kind of crazy to me because, and I don't think, don't take away anything from this apology or this ownership or whatever, this decision by Nadeshot was a good one. But yeah, it's like, how fickle are you guys if that video was enough for you? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I hope I'm not expressing this in the wrong way, but like so basically he did confirm that they had been having issues with Cody's behavior and his like toxicity, right? And he
He said
said like,
personality, right?
yeah, he said personnel issues, but he also said like the reason we didn't explain what's happening is because we don't want to air dirty laundry, you know. So
Right.
quite clearly he's confirming that they have had behavior problems with Cody and things have just not been going well with Cody and the team. Okay.
Mhm.
So he didn't elaborate on that or anything. In fact, he gave a pretty generic statement about that. Like, yes, we've been having some personnel issues, blah, blah, blah. And the coaches felt like Riccara was a better chance for us to win, which was the same statement that probably had made multiple times when interviewed by On Air Talent and Riot, and I think by Travis as well. So
Yeah.
the amount of information that was given from that video was still pretty small. And it's
Yeah.
honestly probably the kind of statement that maybe could have helped this whole situation earlier on if it was made by Nadeshot earlier. Like I said, probably kind of already said this. He didn't really confirm personnel issues. He was saying we did this because we felt it gave us a better chance to win. Maybe he could have delivered that message earlier rather than like after it happened or whatever. They could give everybody a heads up or whatever. But still, the point being, Nadeshot did not give out a ton of information in this. And he still was able to have a long dialogue that made people feel better. So, in terms of possible outcomes from this, I mean, it's one of the best, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it got the job done. I think that, and the thing that sticks with me is it's like it just feels petty that he had to do this to get the job done, right? Like the fact that he didn't really share any new information that would have changed someone's mind about the reason that they were mad, right? Like, oh well, I didn't realize that X, Y, and Z things were happening, and that makes this kind of different. Like I feel differently about this now because I understand. I have a better understanding of why they chose to do what they did. Like the fact that that wasn't what it took, and it was truly just for him to kind of, you know, like
Look like he
acquiesce
was
and
saying that. Yeah.
be sorry. Like I really do think that if what you need from someone is to know that they are sorry for what they've done, you have as much a share of the blame, because if that's all it takes, they haven't done anything that bad to you, right? Like if that's enough, if Nadeshot saying on camera that he's sorry is enough for you to move on, you should have already just moved on. That's my opinion. Um, and I get it, right? Like people wanted to know, but I think that's what it comes down to. They wanted to know. They just wanted to know why, solely for the sake of wanting to know. And that's not like, it's interesting to know why things happen, but it's not so serious that you need to like freak out and create a thread where people can spew hate about it. Like that's just doesn't connect, man. So it's like I know. I guess I kind of look at it as it's too bad that it had to come to this. I'm glad that Nadeshot was willing to do it to kind of clear the air and give us a fresh start. But more than anything, it just makes me look at the community and and question like what it what are we doing? Like why are people so bent out of shape about this and so upset? Like just move on, man. Just move on.
Yeah, it kind of felt like a 7th grade relationship where like the guy has to apologize to the girl even if he doesn't mean it. And if like, okay, well now we're good.
Yes.
That is a little bit what it felt like.
Right.
Now again, I just want to reiterate, he did confirm Cody's son personnel issues slash some stuff going on there. Right. So there was
Right.
a confirmation of that information. But it was so obvious that that was what was happening anyway. Like, if
Right.
you just took a second to connect the dots, you would have
Yes.
come to that conclusion. So it's just it is kind of like sad to see that happen because it's people not willing to see it from any other point of view other than their own, and not using the clues than the breadcrumbs that are right in front of them. YouTube chat, Suraj Patel says that's where the immaturity of the community comes into play. I think that's absolutely right. I'm going to qualify that statement by also saying, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, that the video Travis made about Travis Gafford about 100 Thieves pointed out some things to me personally that made me understand the point of view that I've criticized so much of wanting the transparency and wanting the explanation. We'll get back to that. So I do feel a little more sympathetic for those people than I have before. And if what
are we going to talk?
Go ahead.
Do you want to talk about the Travis video and his perspective?
Yeah,
as a separate topic.
I want to get to that. Yeah. But I do, if what Nadeshot is saying is true, and that they are going to make a change going forward, and they're going to talk about things more proactively and reveal more information sooner, even if it's like a little vague, then, you know, that's a change where they are seeing, hey, our audience feels like they need this to understand the org and to side with the org. If that's what they've got to do, that's what they've got to do. But in my opinion, it's a shame that they have to do that. But I mean, at least, like you said, it seems like a lot of people are coming around on this. Like the apology video has helped, both on Reddit and on YouTube or whatever. And it's not going to put everything to bed. And it's not, you know, there are people who just like to talk bad about the org, and they're not going to be satisfied with this video, and that's whatever. But I think it did do a lot of good. Like Nadeshot was cracking me up with his, like, I'll go on any podcast and talk about this. Like, you know, I'm here to communicate, blah, blah, blah. I was like, man, if only we were a little bit more of a legitimate business here, and we could get this guy on here to talk to us about it. But yeah, I really think that.
Wait, he said,
go ahead. You cut out.
He said, I'll go on any podcast you guys want me to. So whoever's in the chat right now. That's like
exactly his word. Oh gosh. Yeah. But yeah, I am a little sad that this is kind of like changed the proceedings, because if I had my way, like I'm kind of cool with a little bit of a less information approach, or at least if information is coming out, it's kind of coming out in kind of different channels like you see in traditional sports. But that's probably me not being a true league person. I'm a new guy, so I gotta be sympathetic with the people who've been here forever.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, I think, yeah, sympathetic is the right way to put it. Another thing that I think is a really big gap in between what people are understanding and the reality of the situation is, I saw a lot of people talking about, I think for the people who they couldn't accept Nadeshot's apology, they said, I hear you and I don't accept your apology. Apology not accepted. The Cody Sun thing seemed to be the real sticking point. And for them, they were just laser focused on, and I'm speaking very broadly now based on a few people's comments, but those who were making comments that said that they're still not okay with it, it was because Cody Sun didn't get playing time at Worlds.
Yeah.
And in their mind, he had earned it and he was owed it. And the team had an obligation to give him playing time, which again, like the short and simple line that was repeated over and over again is the one that you have to come back to, which is they made the decisions which they felt gave them the greatest chance to win. And I was on the podcast last week saying that I think Cody Sun gave us a better chance to win. And so clearly I am of the same mind as people who think that Cody Sun has strengths that Ricard doesn't. But if you choose to not play, like, the thing that boggles my mind is when people assume that they see something about Cody Sun that probably doesn't, right? They're like, look, I'm looking at the way Cody plays this game. He's got to play. He's way better. And it's like,
I mean, did you see him popping off in week 4 of summer?
Right.
You know what I mean? That's
right.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, You know who did see him? Probably saw him doing that, and it's Probably's job to keep track of how good Cody's son is. Like that's like approximately 1/5 of Probably's job. So, um, like to assume that there's just something you see. So yeah, I thought Cody's son gave us a better chance. Probably didn't, or there was some other issue there that's like, yes, Cody plays better right now than Ricard does, but because of these other four things, Ricard is going to be the one who plays.
Yeah.
And those other four things could be anything, and we just don't know, and we shouldn't know, and we shouldn't expect to know. So you kind of just have to take it on good faith that he's doing the same equation you are with a lot more data, and he's arriving at a different outcome, which is that Ricard plays.
Yeah. And I mean, we sound like a broken record on this because this is what we've been preaching since this whole thing started. But, I think obviously there are people who are going to feel that the Cody Sun call was not the right call, and
Mhm.
you're never going to change their minds about that. You just aren't. But at least the question marks about why are kind of gone now. At least we know
Right.
that it's more than just his level of play, and that there were behind the scenes things going on that contributed. So it is what it is. Do you want to transition into Travis? Talk about Travis's video?
Yeah.
So, and I have
Yep.
to put a disclaimer on this. So I initially did not really enjoy Travis's content. Like when I first started watching his stuff, I just wasn't really I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it, I guess. But he's grown on me as a dude, and I see that a lot of the times I feel like his heart's in the right place. And this video I think was pretty cool video, actually. Um, and it was constructive, which was very nice. So for those of you who may not have seen it, Travis posted a almost 20-minute video, basically him just sitting in his hotel room, talking about the problems that 100 Thieves has, especially on the communication side, and suggesting ways that they could improve it. So he was actually giving some concrete examples of everything, but he has said on Hotline League and in that video, like, there are ways to tell people that they're having problems with players without throwing players under the bus. I still haven't seen that. I still don't think that's really a possibility. And he didn't provide a concrete example of that, but everything else, it was very, very supported. And so it's an interesting video. And if you're listening to this not live, like if you're listening to this on podcast, you should go and listen to that video before you hear us talk about it. So I'll go ahead and talk about the thing that I pointed out earlier. One of the things that he did, which I've never gotten this sort of explanation before from anybody else about this, but he talked about why he thinks the community feels that transparency is owed to them, and why it's so important, like the communication is so important, and why that's different than maybe like traditional sports or something, which is, the comparisons that you and I most often make. And he was saying that the precedent has kind of been set by Riot themselves of being very active in the community discussion about the game, owning up to the problems that they have and discussing the problems with the community and figuring them out together, sharing the thinking behind some of the decisions that are being made. And so he felt like over the years, that precedent was established by Riot itself. And so the League of Legends community got used to that same communication. And then we've seen many of the teams and organizations kind of keep that same mentality about it. I think that's fairly plausible, to be honest. You can't poke a whole lot of holes in that. Like, if that's what you're used to, that's going to be what you expect. And certainly, I mean, I remember in my first, explorations of the game, being surprised at how much Riot talked to the community and talked about like the patches and here's why we made this change on this champion and stuff. So I buy that as an explanation for much of that reason.
Yeah. It's a really interesting one. And I'm with you 100%. I feel like Travis has maintained a very measured and rational approach to these conversations, even though he has an opinion, which
Sure.
like that's exactly what we need a lot more of. So his audience is the biggest, I'd say, of any content creator in League. So he's doing he's doing some heavy lifting and some really good work. And I really appreciate that, especially the video he put out that we're talking about. So the thing that I thought was really interesting was the examples of the other two NA teams who are at Worlds, and how, like, I've been watching the content on his channel every day where he does the interviews with people, and he has the CEOs of those organizations doing interviews, right? So it is very different. Like, there's no denying that, and I don't think we should overlook that. And I think it's worth having a conversation about, like, what the implications are, because 100T has decided to handle the communication of this differently. That's the whole reason we're having this conversation. That doesn't mean it's wrong, but it does mean that people are likely to look at it and say, you know, you're not playing by the same rules everyone else is, and so it feels like you're you know, it feels like you're not upholding your end of the bargain here, right? Like, you're a team finding great success, and for a lot of these folks, you're a team who knocked my team out of Worlds, right? Like, I can't watch my favorite team at Worlds because you're there. And so then I think for those people, it's like, and I'm hearing absolutely nothing from you, and I don't see anybody from your team. I think probably is the exception, but I don't see anybody at the top of the house telling me why it looks like you guys have phoned it in, and that makes me angry, right? And I think that's probably where some of the anger comes from.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that's kind of fair. I don't know how much we can really expect someone like Nadeshot to be present, because 100 Thieves is not just a League of Legends team. Kudos to the people who have been able to make that happen, and the owners who are at Worlds and doing that, especially with different obligations. But man, they've got a lot of other stuff going on, you know what I mean? And I haven't really made up my mind on all this, to be honest.
There's an interesting point here, which is, up to this point, 100 Thieves basically has been a League of Legends team, right? Like, we're seeing a lot of merch, we're seeing a lot of, you know, like, there are other teams, of course. There's Clash Royale, now there's Call of Duty, there's Fortnite stuff.
Very active.
Yep. But, you know, those aren't really teams in the same sense that, like, the league team is a team, right? Like, this is the flagship. This feels like the flagship team. Because, like, a Fortnite is much more on streaming, and it's, you know, it's they have these little tournaments and things like that. But this is like, it's franchise. It's a very structured thing. So what I'm kind of getting to is, I'm wondering, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound like I'm making a negative statement, but I'm not. I'm wondering if Nadeshot considers League to be the flagship or the most important thing for 100 Thieves at this point in time. And I'm wondering that because I don't think that he does. And there's a couple reasons I don't. One is because he's a COD guy. He's Call of Duty through and through. He had more tweets about Call of Duty and how excited he was for Black Ops 4 leading up to the release of that thing. Like, you can't fault him for that. That's just, like, that's where he comes from. That's what he likes to do. That's his favorite game. And so of course he's going to be super excited. And I think he's incredibly excited about putting together a team in that space too. So I don't think that he is placing League on the same pedestal that a lot of these other organizations are, which, you know, and I think that's why you get the CEOs of these teams going to prioritizing it above all the other business obligations they have, and spending a couple weeks there, like Travis was talking about. Like, Worlds is a super long tournament. It's not like a 4-day business trip. So I think there are implications with that too, that I don't think that the sense I'm getting is that Nadeshot doesn't consider League to be the most important thing within 100 Thieves.
Now, that's probably fair, and I think I agree with that. I heard him on the Eavesdrop podcast, and he was talking about how I think he made the comment, and I'm pretty sure it was on this podcast. Like, I listened to a few Nadeshot things over the past couple of weeks, but where he said 100 Thieves was an apparel company first. That's what the idea was. And the League of Legends thing was a way for him to, it was like a vehicle to drive the rest of the thing. And that's where the investors came in. And that's where, that's where the money showed up. So, I mean, from that point of view, then sure. Like, I think you're right. And that's maybe how he has thought of that. At the same time, that video he just made, it made him sound a lot more committed to being more involved in League. And we'll see if his behavior bears that out. And I honestly, with how much he has to do, I'm not sure how fair the criticism even is. Because I mean, there are going to be owners who are hands off. There are going to be owners who are hands on. There's just different ways to go about approaching your business, and he's got a lot of different things going on. So, who are we to tell him, what he should be spending his time doing?
And I think that's the second half of this, which is, I don't necessarily want him, like, part of his apology to the community was saying, personally, I'm going to make this right. I'm going to do this better. I don't know that I want him to, right? Like, if this isn't what you want to be doing, if this is not the most valuable way for you to spend your time, coming up with like, oh, we're gonna sub in Levi next week. Like, we gotta really think about this, like, I would love to just see him say, and Travis had some really good examples of this in his video again, where he said, I've reached out, I've tried to have conversations, I've tried to give them basically the avenue to be more communicative, right? And I get nothing back. Like, that can't happen. We have to, especially with somebody like Travis, we have to take advantage of that. So I want him to just say, I have full faith and confidence in my coaching staff. And and the conversation that probably had with you after the match is exactly what I have to say on that topic.
Okay, that's the point I was going to make, because that was, if there was one thing that didn't really sit right with me in the Travis video, is him talking about like, where were the people who were talking, who could have explained this and who could have talked about this. And I'm thinking to myself, like, didn't you yourself interview Prawley and he gave you the line, the line from the org about, we felt Ricardo was going to be our best chance to win? I mean, why are you going, like, if the head coach says this and gives a statement, why do we need to go find someone higher up? Right? Like,
and I don't think we should.
Bill Belichick makes that statement, people don't go, well, let's see what Robert Kraft has to say. You know what I mean? It's like, no, right. Coach said this is how it is. And maybe there's a couple things in play. One is could probably be more authoritative about the way he says it. Because when he was saying it, you could obviously tell this is like the line that they've come up with to use, which is fine. Like, that's many times, probably most of the time, how these things are handled or whatever. And then the other thing, like, I did like your point about maybe just some more support for Prawley coming from Nadeshot. Like, look, Prawley made that call. I believe in Prawley's reasoning. He's the guy. He gave his reason. That's the reason. Maybe he just needs to drive that home. Like, he's the guy to talk to about this. I'm not sure that 100 Thieves needs a dedicated PR person for the League of Legends team. I'm not saying no, they don't. I honestly, I don't know enough about this whole, how these things work to really have an opinion on that. I don't know. But I do know that if the head coach gives information, then we shouldn't like go to other sources, and we shouldn't like, well, let's see what your boss has to say,
Right. And I think that is, if I could have, like, if I could wave a magic wand and have one thing happen in this scenario, it would be exactly that. It would be Nadeshot doubling down on his support. And he's been great at doing this, right? And saying, our coaching staff is amazing. Our business team is amazing. These guys know what they're doing. I have full confidence in him. He's said that a number of times.
Yeah, he actually has been good about that.
That might be part of why he's like, look, what else do I have to say? Like, I'm not the one making the call on who starts today. Like, why are you asking me?
Yeah, I hired someone to do that for me.
Right. pay a salary so that that's not my decision to make, because look, I got a couple other things going on, and I don't have a long history of playing League at the top levels either, so don't ask me. Um, but the magic wand that I would wave would be for him to just not to try to be what people want him to be, which is they want him to be Liquid Steve. Um, like don't put yourself in that position, because it's in my opinion, and I think you're there with me, that's not right. Now that's not like that's not the model that we should all be shooting for here. Of you have the coach and you talk to the coach, and then you disregard what the coach says and you go talk to the CEO and you listen to what he says, and then you go back to the coach and say, well, it sounds like you guys are not really agreeing here. It's just, can we just get rid of that? And I think that they're right in what they're trying to do here, which is centralize the messaging. And I think where they've stumbled is just in they've underestimated how challenging that will be because of what everyone else already expects.
Sure. Now let me offer you a little bit of a counterpoint, because this is the thing where I personally feel maybe a little hypocritical about this situation. Much of the reason why I'm a 100 Thieves fan is because of how Nadeshot told the story, and he was out being that spokesman for the org in the heist. Watching those first heist videos, I was like, oh yeah, this is the team I'm going to follow. And I would tell you that about 90% of that is just the way he had so much energy talking about this and how great it was going to be. He made you a believer, And so he was a mouthpiece for the org in the beginning, setting it up like this. And we've talked about this before, actually. We felt that there was a conscious decision to kind of pull him out of the heist a little bit, to scale back his involvement in that, focus more on the players and more on the coach but that is what the hook was for me. So
yeah,
I'm, having him not be around as much is maybe, it's not why I got into it, at least. So there is that. And so I can't really blame some people for having that expectation that he's going to be there, because this really felt so much like we were all watching an awesome movie, at the beginning of 100 Thieves. And he was one of the main characters. So
let me ask you this. Do you equate, because I'm with you, like he's an incredibly charismatic person. He makes you excited to be excited about what he's excited about. There's a lot of excitement with Nadeshot. Can we have the best of both worlds, right? Where he is still, he's still there in the day-to-day. He's still popping in with the team. He's still going into the locker room after matches to get him hyped up. But he's pulling back from the formal communication side of it. Like, can we have him in the docuseries and not have him as the spokesperson for 100 Thieves?
That's a hard one.
The official.
And I think just practically and how that played out, that's where maybe you do have that need for the extra person. Like, because if he's not going to be that, given his involvement and everything else, then it's like there probably should be a good reason it's not him. But again, I can't tell you how, whether I truly believe that they need a person like that or not. And that's not to say I don't believe that they need some help there, or like to think about that stuff a little bit more, because if there's one thing that maybe they don't do so great out of all the amazing things that they do, it is the messaging. Just thinking through every detail of it, and maybe having a little bit better of a plan, and maybe a preemptive plan instead of a reactive plan. But totally. It's just a tough situation, and it should be a choice. It really should be a choice. You should have the ability to choose your approach to this thing, know how it's going to affect people, and hey, if we're going to do it this way, this is going to be the fan reaction and we'll live with it, or we're going to do it a different way. They should be able to choose instead of having their fans choose for them. I know, like, one thing pushes the other. If you don't have fans, you have nothing. But it is what it is. Oh, and kind of like tangentially related to this, I did want to point out that I actually I really liked De Niro's take on Hotline League, where he was saying like, if silence is the move, like if that's what you want to do, if you want to like not give this information out and protect the players and just never really explain what happens, then you have to like be fully in on it. Like everybody in the org has to be fully committed to it and to just do it. And so it's fine if you want to do it that way, but don't give interviews where maybe the messaging gets confused between one person and another, or don't change your tune and later reveal the information or whatever. He's like, just, if that's the way you want to do it, have everybody prepared and commit to it. And so.
Right. And that's where that's like a communication strategy, right? That's the difference between a strategy and like everyone agreeing on what you're going to say or not say, right? The strategy is where it's like, look, everybody knows what we're getting after here and everyone knows why we're not going to talk about this. And so they're all committed to it. Whereas I feel like now it's just kind of like, well, one, you have the players basically being the ones who get the first word out there. So then they set the narrative, and that's not good either. So it's almost like if you're going to be silent about it, you have to lead with saying enough so that you can just stop talking about it, right? Like you have to come out with a statement that says what, like the bare minimum that people expect to hear, which is like Meteos is being traded. We feel that this trade will allow us to have the best chance to win in the future. We wish Meteos all the best. That's the end of it, right? And then it's like, and then from this point on, no one talks about this, right? Instead of just saying like, all right, no, we're not going to talk about it, right? Right? Okay, good. What was the other thing I was going to say? Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it is a situation where it has just gotten messed up, and the corrective action that they took today, I think, is going to be largely beneficial. So kudos to them for doing that. I wish it played out differently. That's just me. I am one opinion out of many, and it seems like I'm not typically the standard position on these things. Like I guess I think about them a little bit different, but that was
what I was going to say.
I'm very interested to see if they do truly make a change to the approach going forward.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to get a whole lot more chances to get it right. If we keep running into these problems next season, then those threads will pop up with more and more frequency, right? You just don't want to be that org that's like, wow, they were so, everything was so promising and they just got completely torpedoed by this like what should have been a minor thing. What I was going to say is that Nadeshot did talk about how he basically made a call to not communicate a couple of different times, especially with the Meteos trade.
Right.
So I guess like we should be realistic here. It's not that he's not wanting to be involved, right? I guess it's that he has a specific strategy in mind, and it seems like it was the wrong one in this case. So I think it would be better if he would, my stance is, and again, this is just one opinion of many, I think it'd be better for everyone if he could get the org to a place where he's not the one who is needing to do or not do things. And I think, of course, he has a voice in the conversation, and he can guide the team. But if you're gonna give other people on your staff decision rights, and if you're gonna let them make hard calls, I think it is a lot easier if you can just say, "Hey, look, they made the call. They've told you why. That's what we're going with."
Right. Well, yeah. I personally, I'm not sure I really have anything else to contribute to this conversation, because I feel like it's just tough. and we need to give it time. I do think a lot of this is just going to blow over, and the community will be mad about something else in 2 weeks. So yeah, just I'm going to keep an eye on whether that commitment is followed through on.
Yeah, I do think that there will be some resiliency to the 100 Thieves like hate train. Like I think that once we get back into next season, people will be like 100 Thieves playing that slow, boring League of Legends. Like I think that will be a meme that endures. So I really hope
crazy roster moves.
Well, if we make crazy roster moves, you can bet that people will just start like setting themselves on fire.
Right. Well, we obviously have to make some moves, so yeah, it's gonna be interesting. That's a little preview of I think our next pod, right? We're probably gonna be talking about roster.
We talk about my theory, which here's a sneak peek. This Ricard Cody Sun drama just gonna play out in long form over the entire 2019 season. I cannot wait.
Oh no. Oh, not a chance, man. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah, it's not happening.
I'm kidding. That was a joke, by the way. I don't think that will happen.
Yeah. And actually, you're on record saying he would not be on our roster, and I'm the one who was like, oh, I don't know. I've since changed my anyway, we'll talk about all of that. Anything else? I mean, I got my cream hoodie back here. You got your cream hoodie. So we got to say thank you to Jackson and the rest of the 100 Thieves staff for sending some blessings our way. And we're also I did the drop for the t-shirts as I mentioned before, so I'm excited for those to come in. And then I bought the World's jersey. So if I keep this weird bootleg backdrop, I'll probably have some more additions to be made. I feel like almost no one is talking about the fact that the World's jersey, you could buy it for like, all week. It's like everybody was always complaining about like, oh, merch is never available. It sells out in 5 minutes. And then they do something like this. And there's been like one person on Reddit was like, hey, I'm really glad that they did this. Thanks, guys.
they got 20,000 downvotes.
Yeah, right. Bad timing, I guess. But yeah, I thought the World's jersey was pretty cool. I like to have the white in my collection. So
you got black, white now. Sorry, black, white, black, cream.
There you go. Yeah. The cream version. Well, yeah, I think we can wrap it here. And we look forward to talking about what a weird and insane off season this is probably going to be.
Can't wait, man.
We plan on still providing content. It probably won't be quite as regular as every week, like we were able to do during the season, but we'll see. We're going to do our best. I mean, I love talking about this stuff. And despite all the other sentiments floating around right now, I still really love this organization and this team, the players on it. I'm very happy that we made it to Worlds in year one. And I'm happy that there have been people pointing out that say what you want to say about everything that's been going on right now. 100 Thieves is still like the best new organization that's come to NA and is an illustration of actually the cool part of franchising, not the other way around. And yeah, I'm very happy about that. And this will, I think again, a lot of this is going to blow over and we're just going to have many crazy things to talk about coming up and hopefully another really, really, really far run next year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We'll be back for sure. And I think one last traditional sports analogy for the pod this week. I mean, think about all the really like storied sports rivalries, right? Nobody gives respect to those, every decision that's made by the team that you hate is a bad decision. It's a dumb decision. And it's because they're inept. That's why they made that decision. Right. So like, I don't think we shouldn't overreact to the fact that, now I guess it's kind of unusual in that it seems like it's coming from all corners, but I think it's rooted in the fact that we took from a lot of people what they were really hoping to get this season. And that's how good rivalries are formed, right? Like it's when one team does something that you wish your team would have done, right? Or when, like we beat your team in a critical game and so that it takes away from you what you felt you should have had. There's a theme here take what's not given. All of this is kind of coming full circle. But like if we do really well, if we continue to do really well, there are going to be teams that dislike us because that means that they're doing less well as a result. So that's, I think it partially comes with it. It comes with the territory, I think.
That's a good point. And then when it comes to internal, like with the fan base of the team, because you can have a fan base that is like, oh, we never do anything right, blah blah blah. Winning changes everything, man. Like we closed out this season not winning like we had before. If we closed out the season like Cloud9 has, people would be singing praises right now.
Yeah, for Kara,
that's just how it is. If you win, everything's okay. And I will say this: I know that this is going to be a team and a staff that's dedicated to winning.
Yeah. I saw one comment that was like, "Man, it looked like they were just trying to lose as fast as they could so they could get home." It's like, come on, man. That's not what's happening.
We will definitely see some action to, bets on us winning. Just moves that will be calculated risks and things that are designed to keep us at the forefront of NA, and then hopefully to improve at Worlds. And I mean, honestly, at least people are talking about us right now too, right? Like, when's the last time you heard about Liquid in the last week? Like, no one's even talking about Liquid. It's all Cloud9 is amazing and 100 Thieves sucks. No one's even talking about Team Liquid. So at least we've got people who are passionate about what's going on.
We didn't talk about Big Brother either, but just let the record show they won one more game than we did at Worlds this year, and
it was EDG.
They didn't make
EDG. That's a good team, man. But
yeah, it was, but it's still just one game. Like to say that they are so much better than us on the world stage is it loses a lot of its oomph when it's like, what was their overall record? 3-3. Okay.
Yeah.
Or 2-4. Oh. Okay.
Well, that is, you were talking about rivalries. That's a rivalry I'll be very interested in seeing continue to develop. Looking forward to that next year. So let's go ahead and wrap. And I'll say a thank you to everybody who has listened to us for this season. It is the end of 100 Thieves League of Legends year. It's not going to be the end of our podcast, though. We're still going to keep going in the off season and have some things for you. So please continue to stay tuned to us. But thank you so much for joining us in the first year that we've done this, in the first year of this organization. It's been a roller coaster ride that's had thrilling moments and some sad defeats and disappointments. But that's what being a fan is. It's being there for that roller coaster ride. And I'm getting back in line. So
yeah, it's getting up at 3 a.m. to watch some games and then, just having fun along the way. So It's certainly been that.
Yep. All right. In the meantime, if you have any ideas for stuff you want us to talk about or do over the next several months, let us know. We're active on Twitter, and you can comment on YouTube too. And we look forward to finding new cool content for you. And let's keep doing it. So we'll see you all next time when Jordan is out of his undisclosed location. Maybe he'll bring that little skeleton with him. Who knows?
He's coming with.
He may join the iron in the back shelf, with you. That's something.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah. All right,
I have
everybody.
to sneak it out of my mother-in-law's house.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.